I'm going to ask you a couple more questions first. Mr. Dickerson, before we get into those transcripts, let me ask you, did you plead guilty to carjacking in this case? Yes, I did. Did anyone promise you anything in exchange for your testimony and cooperation here today? No. Are you hoping to lessen your sentence in this case? Yes. What has the government asked you to do today? Nothing. Did I just tell the truth? Thank you. So in that transcript book, there are numbers on the bottom right side. If you could please turn to Government Exhibit 707-0A53. Will you please let me know when you get there? I'm here. Okay. Ms. Etienne, could we please play what has been previously admitted as Government Exhibit 707-0A53? Mr. Dickerson, who's speaking in this phone call? Alonzo and myself. What are you talking about? We're talking about Mildred, the money that she has, and that there was a need to get to it before it's too late. And before it goes away. Before she spent the money? Before she bought a car or spent the money. Could you please turn to 708-0A53T? It should be the next page. Yes. Ms. Etienne, could we please play Government's Exhibit 708? Is this you and Spike again in this phone call? Yes. And what are you discussing? We're discussing the game plan that we had and to stick to it and to follow through with it. Get it done as soon as possible. Was this carjacking supposed to happen the next day? Yes. And you mentioned a dude a couple times in the phone call. Who is that? I don't know. Do you know what his role was supposed to be? He was supposed to take the money, take the car. Was he supposed to use a gun? Yes. Could you please turn to Government's Exhibit 709-0A53T? Ms. Etienne, could we please play Government's Exhibit 709? And who is speaking in this phone call? Spike and myself. And at some point, Spike says, go over this SHI with you. What were you supposed to go over? From this conversation, I'm not necessarily sure. It could have been the carjacking. It could have been artwork that I needed. It could really have been a number of things because I don't necessarily remember. But the conversation is go over some things. So I was constantly badgering him about artwork and what I needed. So it could have been that, or it could have been the carjacking. I'm not sure. At the top, there's a date on this transcript. Can you read what date that was? Is that March 19th, 2014? Is that the day before the carjacking? I don't really recall because did the carjacking occur in March of 2014? It did. Okay. How long did it take for you and Spike to come up with this plan for the carjacking? Maybe a week and some change. Why did you meet in person to discuss the carjacking plan? It was so we wouldn't have discussed anything over the phone. Why wouldn't you want to discuss anything over the phone? Because we were about to commit a crime. Did you and Spike pick a spot for the carjacking? Yes. What spot was that? It was a parking lot a couple blocks from where I was staying. We chose the parking lot because there's not too much activity. There's always ample parking, and it would be a good place for the getaway. Did you and Spike scope out this spot together? Yes. Who else was involved with the plan? There was Spike, Izzy, and myself, and then the person that was supposed to take the car, which I've never met him and I don't know him. What was Izzy's role? He showed me. He was supposed to send me a picture of the car, and then he was supposed to pick up the person that took the car. I'm going to hand you what has previously been marked as Government's Exhibit 776 and 485. Could you please take a look at those two? Do you recognize them? Yes.
What are they?
Pictures of Izzy.
Your Honor, the United States moves to admit Government Exhibit 776 and 485.
They're admitted without objection.
Miss Etienne, could you please publish 776? This is Izzy?
Yes.
And did Izzy send you pictures of the car that Ms. Frederick was supposedly purchasing?
He did.
Could we see 485, please, Miss Etienne? Is this what Izzy's head looks like?
Yes.
And how did you meet Izzy?
I met him over Spike's house.
Did you know Izzy to be part of a gang?
Yes.
Which gang?
Gangster Disciples.
When you met with Spike, I believe you said he was going to have somebody rob Miss Frederick. Did you know who that person was going to be?
No.
Did you and Spike discuss whether the carjacker would use a gun?
Yes.
What did you decide?
To use the gun. I asked him not to use the gun, but he assured me that everything would be okay, that no one would get hurt. So I agreed to it.
Could you please turn to Government Exhibit 711-0A53T in your transcript book?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Sure. 711.
Okay.
Ms. Etienne, could you please play Government's Exhibit 711-0A53? Who are the two speakers in this phone call?
Spike and myself.
What does Spike instruct you to do regarding your phone?
Erase all of everything except for the picture.
And what would the picture be?
A picture of the SUV.
And does Spike mention Izzy on this phone call?
He does.
Could you please turn to 712-0A53T?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the number?
Sure. 712. Ms. Etienne, could we please play Government's Exhibit 712? Is this you and Spike speaking again?
Yes.
And whose car is the white Chevy?
It's the rental.
The rental that
Mildred.
That she rented?
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that when you met with Spike, you discussed how the money was to be divided up. What was the plan?
$6,000 apiece and $2,000 to the person that stole the car.
So that would be $6,000 for you, $6,000 for Spike, and $2,000 for the person with the gun who stole the car?
Yes.
Let's talk about March 20th, 2014. What happened that day?
Mildred rented a car. She came to pick me up because I had the address, supposedly, of where she was going to go pick up the SUV. She had the cash for her. When she got to where I was staying, I asked her if I could drive because I was hungry and I wanted to stop and get something to eat. That was where the robbery was supposed to take place at. So I got in the car. She showed me the cash. I made sure she had it. She took the cash out of her purse, put it in the glove compartment. Then I drove to the spot right where I was going to go get something to eat. I got out of the car. I lit up a cigarette. I don't remember actually going into the restaurant to order. I may have. I may not have. But I was by the car when the person approached us, and
when you say person, who is that?
The person that was supposed to rob us. I didn't know. I had never met him. But I knew what was going to happen. So I knew that it was a robber that was approaching.
And you were outside of the car at this point?
Yes.
Where was Miss Frederick?
She was still inside of the car.
The passenger side?
Yes.
What happened next?
He demanded the money, and she didn't give him the money. And it gets a little foggy for me. It's been such a long time.
Did he show a gun?
He did.
Did Miss Frederick hand him anything?
No.
Did she give him a purse?
No. He actually searched through the purse, didn't find the money, and asked her again, Where's the money at? I know you got some money in the car. Where's it at? Give it up. I know you got the money. And somehow I may have gotten back into, most likely I got back into the car, and because I opened up the glove compartment where the money was to show him where the money was so he can get to the money.
So you got back in the car and opened the glove compartment?
I want to say yes.
And the money was in the glove compartment?
Yes.
This is the $14,000 in cash?
Yes, because I don't remember actually reaching in the window to open the glove compartment. So I believe that I must have been back in the car or had gotten back into the car at some point.
And what did Miss Frederick do when you opened the glove compartment?
Nothing. I think she may have made a comment like, "What are you doing?" But
what happened after that?
I know her car door was open. Maybe he opened it up and told her to get out of the car. At that point, she grabbed the gun and tussled with the person that was robbing her for anywhere between 15 and 30 seconds. I may have gotten out. I definitely got out of the car if I wasn't already out of the car and was wondering what she was doing, why she would grab the gun, why she would tussle with this guy.
Were those questions you were asking or thinking?
Thinking.
Did you say anything?
I said, yeah. Because I didn't want to not say anything because I knew what was going on, and I didn't want Mildred to know that I knew what was going on. So I went through the role of, "What are you doing? Please don't hurt my girl," along those lines.
And what happened after this?
Before I know it, she was out of the car. He was in the car and he sped off.
What did she do when he sped off?
She ran across the street immediately to a security officer that was standing across the street, saying that she had just been robbed.
Did the police arrive after this?
Yes, they did.
What happened? Did you speak with the police?
Briefly at that moment, but I didn't go back in the station.
What did you do when they approached you?
I smashed my phone.
Why did you do that?
Because I didn't want anyone to know that. I didn't want anything to lead back to me as far as, okay, so where's the car that she was supposed to buy? Where is it from? What does it look like? Who's selling it? Which was all dead end information. So I figured if I smashed my phone, then there would be no lead to that.
Could you please turn in your transcript book to Government's Exhibit 721-0A53T?
I'm sorry, 721?
Yes.
53?
721-0A53T.
Okay.
Ms. Etienne, could you please play Government's Exhibit 721? Who is the first speaker on this phone call?
Alonzo.
That's Spike?
Yes.
And could you please remind the jury of your nickname?
Scope.
What is Spike discussing in this call?
The robbery that took place.
And does he talk about you smashing your phone?
Yes.
And at the end of the phone call, does he explain the carjacking and how much money there was?
He explains how much money there was, and he refers to the carjacking.
Did you go to the police station?
Yes.
Did you lie to the police about what happened?
Yes.
What did you tell them?
I told them that I was a victim compared to a culprit.
Are you telling the truth about what happened now?
Yes.
How was the money divided up?
4,000. I got 4,000. I was supposed to get 6,000, but for some reason, I said we'll come back for the other two, and when I went to go back for the other two, he didn't have it.
He being
Spike.
On the day of the carjacking, did you call anyone after this happened?
I called Spike.
Why?
To let him know that everything had gotten done and that everything was in motion. Everything was done. So I gave him a call, let him know that everything was done and that was the end of. So I just gave him a call to let him know.
When you say everything was done,
the robbery, the carjacking, the money was taken, and that was my way of informing him that everything took place and was over with at that point.
No more questions, Your Honor.